we're live.
Hello, guys, and I should say welcome. Have a good evening. Don't leave. Stay tuned. I don't know. I don't know what you say. What do you say with these things? You say hello, how are you? I don't know. Whatever you do. First, okay. I want to start off with we had an incredible event yesterday, and
Well, first share what the pod is about, and then
let's share the podcast. That's why I got Dennis. See, everybody needs a Dennis. This podcast is going to be a continuing story, my life story, and it's some good stuff. So I'm in Mexico, on my way to Mexico City. I'm about to be quite a bit assaulted and end up at the border. At the time, illegal to cross the border, by the way. So stay tuned, because this is the story of a person who, interestingly enough, 6-7 years ago, broke. Earlier before that, had some money. So like we were talking to someone today, this is a riches to rags to riches to rag to riches. And if you haven't already met me, I started out as a homeless veteran in my adult life, shortly after leaving the Army. So it's been an interesting journey. And I thought that at this point I would share it with all of you. And so anyways, we're on the next chapter. So those of you who know me, stay tuned for more. And those of you who just met me, stay tuned for more too. And we're going to do that. But I do want to thank, I'm going to share this picture. Look at this. We had a big-ass group of Rangers. Ranger tab, Army. There were a few Marines mixed in there, but that's okay. That's okay. We understand. There might have actually been some Air Force, but thank God. This was the safest place to be at Casino Quest yesterday, literally on the planet. Nobody was going to take out this room. So there it is, just so you know. Huh? I can put the phone down? So I want to thank you guys, everybody who played a role in that event, and of course, all the Rangers. It was really, it went off fantastic, and it was really good having you guys, and it's fantastic. Everybody enjoyed it. All my guys enjoyed it, and we had a lot of fun. So those are the events that really kind of stir the hearts and make us proud of who we are and where we're going. And by the way, that was about 120. So as word got out, the place just got packed, and they started loading up. So that's what we're about. Okay, so interestingly, I will start off by this because I was thinking a lot about what we're talking about, what I'm talking about, and sort of why I'm sharing this. So for the longest time, I was very, very, very nervous about sharing my story. I have what you might say a lot of skeletons in the closet. A lot of skeletons just walking around, jingling up there behind me, making a lot of noise. What's interesting is I was always embarrassed of who I was. It was always difficult to tell people what my background was, where I came from, because I really didn't know. I didn't have an answer many of the times. In fact, as my life evolved and as these stories took place, people found them fascinating, that I lived through them. But for me, it was always like this great dread. Like it gave people so many ways to judge me and to not let me in, or to look at me unkindly, or whatever the case was. And I think for many of us, as we sit there collectively wondering, what are they thinking about us? I mean, some people don't. My mother could care less, dude. My mother doesn't spend even a second worrying about anybody, but I do. Sometimes I'm caught in an awkward conversation, and I'm not sure if I'm getting through, or people are paying attention, whatever the case is. And so, these are things that make us nervous. These are things that make us or diminish us, or make us afraid. And I've been afraid, as much as I started out in this world full of energy and, vitality, and I was a lot friendlier maybe, I think we all start out that way. As life started kicking my ass, let's just say, that changed. And with it came lots of fear. I was always confident I had potential, because God forbid my mother never shuts up about it, or at least she believed I did. But I always worked in the back. I was always content sort of being back of the house and not really putting myself out there, even though I love people. Let's just say I was somewhat extroverted, but not completely. I don't know. But here I am today. I'm here with all of you, and it's a thing I'm proud to do now. and I'm happy to do. And I hope you are okay sharing this experience. And maybe, again, if you get something from it, great. If not, it's a hell of a story. Okay. So I am not even 18 years old. I'm going to get right into it. You ready? I'm not even 18 years old now. I'm still in my 17s, late 17s. I have officially run away from home for what would be arguably the third time. I have this other young man in my car who's not exactly, he's older than me, 21 years old. His name is Chris. I'm in a Ford Escort GT that I financed and took possession of in Massachusetts. And I have driven it across the border into Mexico. On the way, I acquired a pea shooter gun and some ammo. And I recently ran off from what I believe is an indigenous tribe. As I was coming through Mexico, I found myself in Monclova, and the parents there offered their daughter to me to go back to the United States, but I wasn't ready to go back to the United States, and so my real dream was somehow I had it in me to go to Brazil and trade my car for horses and get on a barge. I mean, it was silly stuff. And I really didn't know. I mean, I wasn't even 18 years old. I had no idea how this shit worked. I didn't even know if you could get there. Like, I wasn't even sure. But I was sure that whatever I was doing moving forward was better than what the hell I was doing going back. That was all I knew. I was just going to keep moving. I didn't care where the hell I was going. I didn't care who the hell I was going with. I was just going to throw myself into whatever experience I could. Which, strangely enough, I quite honestly, even at that age, I believe that I would not live to tell this story. And interestingly, as years passed, I always thought, first of all, I never thought I would make it to 40 years old, and absolutely never thought. Given how my life, the arc of my life, and I have fit a lot of life into the first 40 years. I mean, I quite honestly, and we tried to write down all the jobs that I've had. I have had 60 or more jobs over my lifetime. That's no exaggeration. 60. I have played a role, and not just a business planning part. I mean, I've written lots of business plans, and sort of, technically you could say I had a little bit, but not including any of that. I have been whatever you can imagine. I have cleaned bathrooms. I've been a dishwasher, a project manager. I have sold Mercedes-Benz, Lincolns. I have worked on. So in fact, the joke about the office, or where I work now, of course, is what haven't I done? I mean, you can put something out there, and I've done landscaping, I've built rock walls. I mean, I worked on a farm for a minute, and I worked on cattle, I groomed horses. Can you imagine? I mean, I have done a plethora of it because I always, every day I wake up looking for something else. I've never sat and listened to the birds. I just never sat down. I was never one to do anything like that. In fact, even now, I require lots of input all the time. I have a movie going, and then I'm reading the news and writing emails, and this is the nature of my brain, I guess. So I always thought that because of all this energy, because of all this activity, I would wear my ass out. Like at one time, I would just drop dead on the street. I don't know what I thought would happen. I did think that maybe someone would kill me because I had heard kind of weird stuff about Central America. I didn't know if that was the goal. I quite honestly didn't sit still long enough to even think about it. And when people ask me, didn't I think it was dangerous? I guess, but no, I didn't care. I was too young to give a shit, and I thought I had answers that I really didn't have answers, and so I just kept going. I didn't have the benefit of a family or a friend or any kind of mentoring or anything like this. I had been alone in the world for as long as I could ever remember. And the journey to Mexico was freedom for me. It was the first time in my entire life I experienced freedom. Now, I didn't have a whole lot of money on this trip. I mean, I think I left with about $2,500, and most of it I got in cash. And I say most of it because I do believe I had some traveler's checks at some point. I had converted some to traveler's checks. Remember those? But basically, I wasn't planning on coming back. So whatever I had left behind, I had left behind. So I'm leave Monclova, and I'm like the Hobbit in the Lord of the Rings, dude. I'm like the Hobbit. It's like I left the elves, and they gave me bread and sandwiches. I gotta throw that in there because I'm a big Lord of the Rings fan. But so they leave. We leave on good terms. The idea is if I'm coming back through Monclova, maybe I'll stop by and pick up the daughter on the way home. This is quite literally a thing. But anyways, I didn't rule it out completely. It seemed like an interesting proposition. And by the way, this was just me meeting somebody who wanted kind of to get in the car. We didn't talk about even dating or anything like that. These weren't parents trying to sell their child. They were just literally looking for, a new way up. She was going to go to like school or something, and then maybe I can give her an opportunity in the United States, whatever the case is. But anyways, so here I am. I'm off to Mexico City because that was the next closest big thing I can get to, and I wasn't sure what that amounted to. But so far, the biggest city I'd come across was Monclova. And then besides that, lots of little towns that I have interacted with that I don't even remember to this day, to be honest, because the impact was less so. But the one thing I did know is at this stage of our journey, poor Chris was starting to have quite a bit of anxiety. He was definitely not as excited as I was. He was experiencing, let's just say, a little bit of anxiety, nervousness, this kind of thing. And so, but it was early onset anxiety. Like it hadn't manifested into anything too big, but I was cognizant of it, and I was sort of watching out, and I knew that if anything could take away from my trip, it was this individual, But anyway, so we get into my remember I got an Escort GT, and it's like a little coupe car. It's not even a sedan, it's a two-door, and so we're off and running, we're on to Mexico City. Now, I get into Mexico City. It's a bit later at night, and I pull over, and actually, let me back up. So it's late at night. I'm coming down this one mountain, about to go up this other, and I see what for me is the biggest spread of lights I've ever seen in my life. I can't even believe it. Here in the middle of Mexico, so coming from the north and coming down, you don't experience a lot of when you're driving to like Vegas, for example, right? You come over the hill, depending upon which way you're coming from, Arizona, California, you come over the hill or you come onto the valley and boom, you see the spread of lights. Or really any city, right? If you're coming in late at night and you happen to be a little higher altitude and you're going in, the city is just literally just spread out. It's fantastic. You see all the lights, the whole city is lit up. You can see the whole footprint, especially when you come into big cities like, you remember the first time into like LA, the Vegas Valley, all the times that I've driven into like even Philadelphia, Atlantic City, New York City, Manhattan. I mean, you see the skylines all lit up. I mean, it's really fantastic to see these cities at night, all lit up is just literally, it's hard to forget that. They make great postcards, right? So here I am. Now, remember, I lived in New York City. Then I moved to Boston. And then I was familiar with, LA and, some big cities. I've been to some big places in the United States. And so in front of me I'm in my car, and all of a sudden there's lights like you can't see the end of it. Like I've never seen a city so big, so massive, so sprawling. I mean, it's just amazing. It's a stunning thing. And this is in Mexico, because, I mean, it's not the United States, right? It's not New York, but it's come to find out, it's one of the largest cities in the world by population, by size, and I'm coming into this massive city, and I remember just being taken back by the scope of it, and just like because you just don't expect this. Anyway, so I'm driving into this city, and the first thing I realize is no one obeys any traffic laws anywhere at any time in Mexico City, and they have these little police with whistles. And they whistle to each other. They like whistle ahead, and they don't even need cars, dude. If you run a light and you disobey them or whatever, so they have this system where they will whistle ahead, or at least this was the system they had in place 30-something years ago when I was there, 35 years ago, whatever it was. Now I'm assuming that the technology has evolved. Maybe they use, who knows what they use. But so they would whistle. They would be on whistles, and they had traffic lights, but it was like, do I stop or do I not stop? You know what I mean? Maybe you can stop, maybe you don't really have to stop. It's very questionable because I'd be stopped because I'm coming from the U.S. and I'm stopped at a traffic light and there's literally no one stopping. In fact, people are honking at me and beeping at me to go. Even the damn cop is like, whistling at me to move through the intersection. But anyway, so I drive through Mexico City for a little bit, And the first thing I do is I gas up. I find a Pemex, which a ton of Pemexes, right? So I fill up with Pemex is like our Chevron or Shell or whatever else. And so I fill up with gasoline, and I pull over down the street. This what looks like a main street, and it looks like a really refined, like a shopping district kind of thing. I mean, Mexico City is like every other city, right? They have neighborhoods. Some neighborhoods not so nice. Some neighborhoods very, very nice. And so I get to this neighborhood, looks very nice, and I pull over on the side of the road, and I get out, and there's this big boisterous cop. Can I say big boisterous cop? Can I use the word boisterous? Let's just say he was packing out a few apple pies, dude. What do you guys eat down there? Churros? What do you guys eat for dessert? Churros? Anyways, churros. Okay, anyways. So he's sitting there. It's a big man, and I pull over, and I tried talking to him, of course, in English, which he doesn't really understand. Although I kept asking him I want to buy a Spanish-English dictionary. I want to buy, to translate. And he says, so I'm asking about a bookstore, or where I can buy books, and then, bibliothèque, right? That's a library. Biblioteca. Anyways, he finally gets it. He points me to a store that happens to be not that far off. And I go to the store, I come back, and I buy an English-Spanish dictionary, English-Spanish, because I figure if you're going to be in Mexico and you don't know any Spanish, it's good to have English-Spanish dictionary, right? So I buy this English-Spanish dictionary, coming back to my car, and the guy is still the big, shall we say, portly cop. I have to say this because it leads into kind of, where the story is going. So he's there, he's leaning up against my car, and I'm trying to get in my car. I don't understand why he's leaning in my car, what the issue is, because I got my book, I'm coming back, I'm gonna get in my car and get the hell out of here, you know what I'm saying? And so he directs me, he's like talking to me, and I don't understand a word he's saying. I'm trying to open my book, and he's like, no. And he leads me into this telephone booth, because we still had telephone booths, and not just for Superman. These were used, you guys don't know, but Superman used to actually use the telephone booth to change. Now everybody has it in a ring, and they change instantly, whatever. But back in the day, they actually had to change in a telephone booth, you know what I mean? So he brings me to this telephone booth, and he makes a call, which, by the way, back then, I could never figure out how the hell to use these telephone booths. Like in Mexico, they had this, you had to call the operator, they would tell you how much money you had to put in, then you had to have whatever local denominations. I mean, it was always hit or miss, you know what I mean? And most of the time, I put my money in there, and it would just hang up on me. I mean, tell me to do it again, I don't know. Anyway, so he gets on the phone, and he calls in, and there's a translator. So it's a translator. He gives me the phone receiver, and there's a translator on the phone. She's like, this is a municipal, I'm assuming a government, in fact, it was I forget the name of the agency, but some government agency, right? And the woman says to me, you have to pay him. And I was like, what do you mean I got to pay him? I just asked for directions. I don't understand. What are you saying? No. He's not going to let you leave unless you pay him. And I'm trying to understand, like, okay, did I park in the wrong place? Like, what? No. She's like, no, none of that. He wants you to pay him. And I'm like, so what you're saying is I need to give him a bribe. Oh, no. He wants to get paid. Not a bribe, paid. Okay, well, anyway, so I was ready for this because, remember, before I went down, if you guys listened to the last podcast, right, I was told to carry, I had stacks of dollar bills ready to go. Doot. By the way, I'd already been pulled over by a few federale stations. They don't take money. Don't offer them money. Well, they wouldn't, back then they didn't take money. You don't offer them money, they get offended by it. But this was the first cop I had to literally, I couldn't believe it. This lady works for the government, I'm assuming it's the government, is telling me I got to pay the guy just to get in my car and get the hell out of here. So anyway, I'm at the phone booth, and I have some money in my pocket. I just went and got the book, and I got some change. And I have, like, I would say $25, of which, like, 15 of them, a bunch of them are singles, because I was coming prepared. But anyway, so I start handing over $1, and he's like, no. And another $1. No. Another $1. No. He's still, how many dollars do you need, bro? Because I had heard that $1 went really far. So $1 was worth over 2,000 pesos back then. These are some good dollars. U.S. dollars were mint back then, like ridiculous. I forget exactly what the exchange. So 150 was 220,000 pesos. I know that exactly because I'm going to get to that later. But So I'm not sure. So anyway, so I'm giving him dollars. Next thing I do, I get to the $5. I've already given him like 50. He still wants more money. I'm like, well, I don't have any more money. It's in my car. I start walking to my car, and the man starts to whistle. He pulls a whistle out. Now, I mentioned the whole portly thing. He pulls a whistle out, and he starts running towards me, and now I realize I'm not going to make it to my car, strangely enough. And there's another guy coming the other way. He's whistled to another cop. They whistle to each other, dude. They alert each other, and then they respond, and the next thing you know, they're all converging on you. I book it across the street. Chris is, let's just say he followed me. I don't know how he got so lucky with this one, I'll be honest with you. But we book it across the street. I don't remember all that happened, but we end up circling back and get into my car. Because portly cop, not so much on the running. At some point, I think he had to stop and just, catch his breath. I get in my car. I'm going to pull out, and sure than shit, I don't even know how to express this, but basically there was a wagon pulled up. So there's all these whistles going off, and a wagon pulls up. And if you guys have ever seen like the, what do they call those, Keystone Cops, where they would all get on the back of a car and they'd be running down the road, you know what I mean, making all sorts of noise. Older people will know what I'm talking about. But anyways, just right out of like a Benny Hill episode or Keystone Cops. There's all these police. They jump onto this what I refer to as a paddy wagon, and they start chasing me down the damn road, dude. And it's the strangest thing because first of all, it's not a car that goes very quick, and they're all hanging off of it. And I'm looking in my rearview mirror, going, "This is the most absurd thing I've ever experienced." And there's a guy that's on this wagon who's whistling ahead, who's then whistling. The whistles are staying ahead of me, even though I'm zooming my ass down wherever the hell I'm going. Well, I have an Escort GT, which, it's not a fast car by any means, but it's a maneuverable car, and they're a bunch of portly fellows hanging off the side of a paddy wagon or something like this. I'm not even nervous, to be honest. Like I remember having these experiences, and after the fact, I'd be nervous, but while it was taking place, I was so excited. You know what I mean? I was so weirdly excited that I might have gotten some tingles. I might have been in tingle mode. I really was. If I would have been in tingle mode. But anyways, so the next thing you know, we're driving around. This goes on for, I don't know, about an hour. The paddy wagon lays off, but I can still hear whistlings. I managed to get ahead. Nothing else happens outside of that at that moment, right? And then I'm trying to shoot for south. I'm trying to go south, and I'm trying to get to the outskirts of the city because I figure I can just somehow, luckily I filled up with gasoline. It was a genius, brilliant move of mine. Imagine having to pull up to get some gasoline in the middle of all, because I'm not the only gringo in Mexico City at the time, but I'm like one of the few with an Escort GT who just bought a book that has a paddy wagon. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how they would identify me back then, because now they could, right? Like they got drones or I don't know what else they got some, but back then it was a little easier to get away. So I see a sign for Tijuana. And I don't even know how long it says to get to Tijuana, but I'm like, you know what? I know Tijuana. I've never been there, but I've heard of it, and I know it's a tourist town. So I'm like, dude, we're on our way to Tijuana, okay? Now I'm not sure. This is where I know that we either stayed somewhere or pulled off at some point, but so we get to Tijuana, and when we get to Tijuana, it's a little bit towards the later in the afternoon. And we pull up, and there's if you've ever been to Tijuana, there's it's got the beach, obviously. All the hotels, the nice hotels are on the beach. Things have changed, by the way, in Tijuana. Be careful. It's not the destination that it used to be. Cartels have definitely, let's just say, rented a few villas there. So all the hotels are on the beach side, and on the other opposite side of the street is literally not so nice. Have you ever been to Atlantic City and you see, you have the casinos, the boardwalk, and then the rest of it? This is literally TJ. TJ was literally this. On the beach, nice, and then literally across the street, not so nice, right? So anyways, we pull over in the not so nice area because David assumes that's going to be cheaper, and it was. And, I parked my car in what I thought would be an inconspicuous space, and it was. And so we get out. I know, right? I'm just trying to fill in the blanks there. I'm trying to give you guys a little bit of atmosphere. You know what I mean? So we get out and we start walking around, and we run into this guy, and I don't remember his name. I don't remember his name, but he is literally. So did I ever mention that outside of the cops that want to get bribed and cartels wanting to take your head off or kidnap you, but the people in Mexico are just absolutely beautiful people, and I don't know a single one of them that didn't want to help me or didn't literally just go out of their way to do something for me or to just I don't know, be nice. I mean, it was crazy. Now remember, this was 30 years ago. Okay, so I meet this guy, and he comes up to me and he wants to be my guide, and I'm like, well, I don't need a guide. Like, what kind of guide? He's like, well, he speaks perfect English. And he starts taking me for a tour of Acapulco. And he's introducing me to all these stores. He's like, look, and you can shop here, and you can shop there, and this store has this. And then I realized, he's literally like, he probably gets a commission. He like directs you into a store, and they give a little bit of money, whatever the case is. And then at that point, I'm able to have another conversation. I'm like, listen here, fella. I'm not here. I'm not a tourist. I drove my ass here, number one. And I'm not the kind of money that, you know what I mean? I don't have the kind of shopping skills you're going to need to make a living. Like, this is not going to go far. And what's interesting is, instead of him being like, well, that's, I'm going to need to move on to my next customer or giving me a bunch of crap for not buying shit. Instead, he was like, it's just really nice. He wanted to hang out with us. He wasn't expecting any money. And then he was just then he was warning us where not to go, what not to buy, where to get food, the cheapest beer. He became like, I don't know, just like a friend. It was tremendous. So I shared with him that I had been trying to order pasta as long as I'd been in Mexico. No one seems to know what the hell pasta is. He didn't know what pasta was. How do you not know what pasta is? I mean, I don't understand. I thought that was like a generic term for like life. You know what I mean? Dennis is shaking his head no. So like this whole time in Mexico, no one knows the hell pasta is. I'm trying to describe it. It's a noodle, put it in water, and then I go home. So he takes me to his house. And it's this, okay, I don't know, it's a really small home. It has one bed squeezed into an opening. It's probably a queen bed. And there's nothing, you can't go anywhere on the sides. There's a fan, okay? And then there's a small kitchen and a little dining area, and this place can't be more than 300 square feet. I mean, if that. I mean, it's really small, and it was him, his wife, and his newborn son. Not newborn son, like a 6-month-old son kind of thing. So we get to this house. The first thing they do is they clean off their bed. They throw new linens on, and they offer the bed. They offer me the bed to stay with them for a day as we travel and figure out what we want to do. It was amazing. Then I sit down at their table, and I'm trying to explain pasta to her, and she makes me sopa, which is soup with these little noodle things, which is like, okay, we're halfway there, minus all the soup. I got a little bit of a pasta in there. Is it pasta? Is it like rice noodles? I don't know what the hell. What is sopa? Anyways, so I'm eating this sopa, and we're having this great conversation. I'm getting to know this family. We end up spending about 2 days there. And it's fantastic. It's one more reason to justify everything I've done. And these are, by the way, these are the experiences that have tempered my whole existence. Like I kid you not. Like if you wonder how I have built this team and why I have the engagement that I have and why we've done what we've done is quite literally. This is it. This is it. I'm giving all to you right now. Why are you shaking your head? Should I stop?
Someone said fideos. It's like broken spaghetti. That's what it's called.
Yeah,
Fideos.
yeah, little pieces of pasta in there. Thank you.
They're called fideos.
That's what it was. In like a red soupy sauce. You see?
Yeah, that's regular soup.
Okay. Anyway, all right. So
I do want to read a super chat.
Okay, go.
Yeah, Alan Toy says, when are we gonna see Sticky's 30-roll crap challenge?
Really? Back to crap challenge?
I'll do another one soon here.
Okay. Yeah, soon. Okay.
But I digress.
All right, we digress. Is everybody amused? Is everybody good? We're gonna keep going.
So one thing before you go,
Yeah.
someone's asking what's the time period when these stories are happening.
Oh, this is 1987. This is 87. Yeah, middle of 87, 1987.
Yep.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Okay. So here I am. I'm walking this. Okay. So we stay with them for a couple days. I meet this this fantastic family. They take $0 from us. In fact, this guy offered me money. I was just so stunned. How are you offering me money, dude? You need. I mean, what is it? What is it about your life? You know, this is the thing. You know, you start answering these kinds of questions about how someone can be that happy, and just. I mean, we're talking about a family that got up every day, just completely, absolutely excited to be alive. They have their kid. Their husband goes out. You know, takes tourists out there. I mean, it was literally just tremendous. I had never seen anything like it in my entire existence. I never knew people like this. I never knew anyone. It's hard enough going down the street and getting someone to say hello, right? I mean, or, you know, God forbid you start a relationship or a conversation. I mean, you know, how often do we feel so intimidated and so afraid and so, not here. There's none of that. They were just happy to engage, and they moved us right in. The woman cleared off her bed for me to live in. She took her one fan and turned it on us, and would not let me turn it away. You know. Meanwhile, if you're asking where they slept on this next to this table, and I could do nothing about it. I mean, they had a mat and everything else. They according to her, they were very comfortable, as happy, and you know, this is what they do for guests, and I mean, it was just stunning. But anyway, so we after a couple of days, you know, we leave, and we return to the car. And that was another thing. No one ever touched the car. It was the most unique car you'd ever seen in Mexico at the time. It was a brand new Escort GT, right? And they had a lot of like classic cars. You saw a lot of Volkswagens, strangely, a lot of Volkswagens. You know, the VW Bugs. But you didn't see my car. But no one ever touched it. And it looked like if I was in the United States, it wouldn't have been the best neighborhood to leave it. You follow? But in Mexico, no one ever. There was none of that. None of that. No one touching cars down there. No one's just like randomly, you know, robbing you and breaking into your shit. I mean, I didn't experience any of that. Well, there was those gunshot wounds later. Just wait for it. Anyway, so we leave, and so we go to the beach. I wanted to go to the beach, like, you know, live like a tourist for a day before, you know, because our whole goal is, of course, to keep going and get to Brazil and get on the barge with our horses and travel through Africa and roam I don't know what the hell I was thinking. But so we decided to figure out how to get on the beach, but we couldn't afford any of the beach hotels. That was the problem. Because this was a tourist destination, and the hotel rooms were not cheap. So either was a beer. It was funny because you could literally walk across the street, and for $1, you could drink for probably half a day. You know what I mean? Or you could have enough drinks for me anyways, for me. I'm a bit of a lightweight, so half a day could be, you know, 2 beers. I don't know. But meanwhile, at the hotels, it was like, you know, a couple dollars per beer. You know what I mean? It was like just whole other experience. I mean, they literally walk across the street. So that's what we did. I walked across the street. I had gotten some beer, walked back across the street, and I found this parking lot where I was able to park literally just off of a beach, and then we were able to go and lay on the beach and the whole thing. So we go to the beach, and I'm there with Chris. We're just hanging out. And you know, by the way, no one checked IDs down there. There's none of that. I don't even know what the hell the drinking age was, but that was never a thing. So we're at the beach, and this kid walks up to us, and I'm assuming that this is how everything started going south for us. So this little kid walks up to us, and when I say little kid, you know, 8, 9, 10-year-old kid walks up to us, and in not perfect English, but pretty good English, asks if we need anything. And I'm like, well, what do you need? And he's like, you know, touching his nose, and he's doing like the smoking thing. And I'm like, I tell the kid, no, we're good. We don't need anything. We're good. You know, I don't say we have anything. I said, no, we're good. And so he leaves, and 10 minutes later, this is a bit later at night, by the way, 10 minutes later, we are walking back to our car, and we get approached by a police officer, a local police officer with the policier, the whole uniform, everything else. We've seen plenty of them. We know what they look like, assuming that they're not pretending to be something they're not. And so he comes over to us, or me actually, because Chris was a basket case, was turning into a basket case, just so you know. It was getting, every day that went by was sort of harder for him. We were going to mail his ass home, and so I was trying to figure out how the hell I get him home with that. But anyways, so so the cop comes over to me and says to me, doesn't really say a whole lot, to be honest. Starts pointing at me, doesn't speak English very well. I can't understand a flipping word he says. I keep trying to get to my Spanish-English dictionary, which is in the back seat, in between all this other stuff, but it's like right there in the window. I could just reach in and grab it, but doesn't want me to grab anything, right? So he's backing me up away from the car, and he's trying to point, and he's telling me, but anyway, so he basically escorts me to the front of my car, and he gets in the back seat behind Chris. He gets in the back seat behind Chris, and he's pointing and sort of directing me to drive with him in the car. Okay, so I'm driving slowly, mind you, because he's a cop and he's got a gun. And so this is what you do when you're in a foreign country and you got a guy with a gun in your car telling you what to do, sort of. I can see in my rear view mirror there is a car behind me, a cop car. Okay, because they look very specific. They were these small sedans with paint on the top. They were like these two tones, like a blue, like a white, and then on the very top of the car and on the hood, they would have like their name or whatever the number was. They had a number, right? And so I see the car behind me, and it doesn't. They're not using their lights, and now it's gotten darker to where you need lights. And now I'm thinking, holy crap. Why would a cop car be following me with no lights on, right? That's like probably not a good thing. But anyways, he's still just sitting in the back, pointing, and he's directing me up this hill. And we're heading up this hill that goes around and around and around, literally around and around. And it's like, it felt like a half an hour going up this hill. It could have been 2 minutes, I'm not sure. But we're going up and up and up and up in this hill, and at some point, I lose track of the police car that was supposedly behind me, or that was behind me with the lights on. We get to the very top of this hill, and he has us pull over. I mean, literally the top. By the way, the view, fantastic. You can see out the whole bay and the whole like little loop that TJ makes, all the hotel. I mean, it's absolutely beautiful. Meanwhile, I got a cop here. We're at the top of the hill. And whoever his partner is with their car has got no lights on it. This is probably not going to go well for us today. So he brings us out. So he has me get out of the car. Chris gets out of the car. And he has us sitting in front of the car with our hands in front of us and on our knees. So, he kicked our feet, and he didn't want us to have our feet out in front of us. So we were like sitting like this. By the way, he's an idiot because that's not I don't know if that was the right protocol or not, but this is what you do when you do. All right. So he comes over to us, and there's a point where he unholsters his gun. He means business, and I see, or you can hear there's a car because it's all gravel. It's not even regular roads. It's like gravel up here, so you can hear the other car coming, and you can tell that. There's no lights. This other car's coming. It's a police car. It's got no lights. You can barely see it. And his partner, is walking up. And his partner starts speaking to us while the other dude I don't know why the partner with the English should have started with us. You know what I mean? Because it would have been much more clear what the hell was going on. But anyway, so the partner comes over and he starts speaking English to us, and he's like, basically, I need to know where all your shit is because we're about to rob you blind. And that's the conversation. Like, where in your car do you have this, and where do you have car and you have this? At first he talks to us about that, he found out from an operative that we had cocaine. And that was why we had been detained. And we're like, is your operative the 8-year-old that came? Because that was the only person we've interacted with besides that couple. Now thinking, but no, it's not a thing. The 8-year-old, 10-year-old, whatever. I mean, that's your operative who told you we're good, and so you jump to we're good by we have all the cocaine we need this week. I mean, it made no sense. So anyways, they go into the car, and we have these jugs of water. And I have this, by the way, I have this big ass knife that I've collected too. I had this big ass knife that was in a sheath. I had this leather jacket, and I had a bunch of other stuff. And I had a bunch of money in the glove compartment box, but I had the rest of my money hidden. Thank you, Jesus. Really good hider. But anyways, so they go. The one guy goes in. The English-speaking dude who should have started with us in the beginning goes around to the passenger side, goes into the glove compartment box, and just starts literally scavenging, taking the knife, taking the money, even the jugs of water, dude. What the hell are you gonna do with jugs of water? Why would you take jugs of water? It makes no sense, right? And which sucked at the time because some of these jugs of water we had carried with us all the way from the U.S. And if you didn't know, water in Mexico can be a little sketchy. So we had, so this was our last supply of water from the U.S. that we had with us, and so he just steals it, and the next thing you know, he starts walking down to his car with all of our crap. Now I am firmly convinced that why would you rob 2 American tourists and not just kill them, right? Like, why would you leave them alive to tell this story? Because I just assumed that they were going to take us out. And the strangest thing for me is that Chris was crying, had sort of rolled over, and it was a bit of a mess, man. It was tough. It was really rough. At the time, though, I didn't have any recourse. There's nothing I could do for him at that moment. So the guy has a gun out. He's not pointing it directly at us at this point, but he has his gun out. And I get up. And he's talking to me about sitting down. I just get up, dude. I'm firmly convinced we're dead anyways, but I want to know why he's going to kill us. And I want to have one final word to say that he might understand. Or ask a question maybe. I don't know. So you remember I had my English-Spanish dictionary on the top, and on the driver's side, the back, the windows. All I got to do is reach in and grab it, okay? And as I'm going to get the book, because all I want is the book, because I want to open the book and, I want to talk to this guy, dude. Hopefully make him think twice about killing us, and I don't know. And he's standing there, and he raises his gun, and I'm 100% convinced. And thinking back on it, as I've told the story before, I'm sure he thought I was going for a gun or something, that I had a gun there, right? But I'm like, no, it's a book, And anyways, he's got his gun out, and now he's holding it at my head. Literally, I'm leaning into my car. I got my hand in my car. I got my hand on the book, and he's got a gun right at my head. It's the police, Acapulco police. Yeah, no shit, by the way, Acapulco police. And he's got a gun on my head, and I'm thinking to myself, if I pull this book out, this guy's gonna shoot me in the head. He's just gonna shoot me in the head, and it's all done. And I'm like, well, he's gonna shoot me in the head anyways. What the hell? I might as well go for the book. Maybe it'll give him a little jitters. I don't know. But anyways, I grab the book. He didn't shoot. He backs up, and I pull the book out, and I'm sure he had a bit of relief. Who knows? And I'm trying to find some pages. Like I haven't. It's dark, and you really can't see. And then I realize, like, what the hell am I trying to say? Like, how am I going to put together a sentence anyways? This book is not going to do shit for me. And so I'm asking him in English, as you can imagine, like, why do you want to kill us? And, because here I went through all the trouble to get the book, and then I realized I can't really use the book. The book is of no use to me. I can't put a sentence together. He's not going to understand. And I can't find the words fast enough, right? Especially because he's got a gun out. His buddy's almost gone. You know what I mean? And here I am at the top of the seat. I don't know what he said. He said something, and then he started backing away, and then he was waving his arms, and I got the impression that we were just to wait, and then he was gonna leave. And no, fuck that. I don't know what possessed me, or I think it's entitlement. or at this point, bravado or idiocy or just brash balls. I don't know. I yell at Chris, get in the car. Get in the car right now. We got to get the hell out of here. By the way, which he was very happy to oblige. So he gets up. He's crying. He runs into the passenger side. I get into my car, or I get into the thing. And the police officer that was walking down the hill had turned around and was literally approaching the side of the hill. So it's kind of hard to explain, but there was a side of the mountain. Their car is like on their police car, no lights, right? And he is walking down, and my car is over here, and I'm on this little bit of a perch that's coming out. And I roll down the window, roll down the window. Remember that, when you had to actually physically roll down the window? So I'm rolling down the window. I back up the car, and as I'm backing up the car, I can see the dude, the police officer, swaying, walking down. I grab him. I fucking grab this guy by the arm. I pull it into my window, and I'm trying to roll it in reverse. I want to take this asshole with me. I'm literally gonna, because I don't know if I thought that I was still in danger or that I had to strike back, but one way or the other, this guy was coming with me. He was gonna pay because I was in a really, really bad situation. Now, it's the Acapulco police, yeah, and by the way, David's got a report in there. I'm still waiting for a follow-up, just so you know. I went down, so I'll go over with the aftermath. So I'm pulling him. I have his arm inside my car, and he falls off, and I'm pulling him, and you could hear it. There's bone, there's sinew. You could hear it. This man is in pain. He's in agony. His buddy in the police car must have seen something, because then the lights go on. But here's what also comes to lights. I'm backing up. My lights are on, but now I can see his fucking hood of his car and the number on his car. I can see the number on his car. And of course, it's all going into memory, because now I know who fucked me over. And I'm just going. Sadly for me, there was a little bit of like this bank. And so as I hit this bank as I'm backing up, because as you can imagine, I'm not the best driver. Still not the best driver, to be honest with you. And as I was backing up, it was so chaotic, and then I'm trying not to hit the cop car, and then I'm thinking they're all going to come guns blazing, or I don't know what the hell. I wasn't really thinking, to be honest with you. The guy falls away from the thing and falls out. Falls out from my thing, falls on the ground, and my car is still rolling, and I'm now around the corner around this corner, and I'm able to. The only thing I can do is, and I don't know if this was an opening from just the universe or God just telling me to, just to put it to the pedal. But straight away, as I turned around, I could literally go forward and just start booking it out of that whole area. And that's what I did. I booked it out of that area. That cop car never came after me. I didn't see, it didn't like chase me or anything else. It was done. That whole experience was done. We ended up going back closest. So I thought about going to that friend, and it was interesting, because as we were just even trying to find him, I couldn't remember exactly where he lived. He lived in this sort of a multi-building thing with stores, and it was just so hard. It was really late at night, and I couldn't figure out what the hell he was. And then I was thinking, like, that's the last thing I want to do is bring him trouble. Like, and now I got to figure out what the hell I have to do. I don't know what to do. I'm not even a legal adult. I'm 17 years old. And it's not like I have I don't know anybody. I'm in a foreign country. I don't know what the hell is going to happen to me. But I know that what happened to me was wrong. It was absolutely wrong. They went and they robbed me. That's all they did. Like, what else can they claim? So, you know what I did? I got directions. Somehow I got directions. I don't remember how that all went down, but I literally found the local Acapulco Police Department. And I pulled up outside of one of their, this one intake area, or, will look like an intake area anyways. And I literally sat my car there right outside the police. Now, you would think if I had sense about things, that would be, I just got molested by the Acapulco. But why would I park outside? Because I figured, in my brain, these are just bad apples. You know what I mean? Like, even now, you have people that act out, but the rest of it should be good. right? How do you have a tourist center, a tourist destination, you don't have a working police force? And these are the outliers. Like these, whoever these guys were, they were outliers. So anyways, we're both in the car. Chris is literally telling me it's not the right idea to sit outside the police department of the police who just, like, that would be the word. But I'm thinking, I don't know what I'm thinking. Again, not thinking so much. The police department is effectively closed for intake at this point. And it's like an hour or two that we're in the car, and then we see someone, we go inside, and you know what they tell us? They can't take a report from us. They send me to a local consulate's office. They send me to a local consulate's office who they take the report, from us. And the guy literally comes out and he says to me, listen, the consulate. By the way, the consulate is not an American. It's someone, it's a Mexican who is filling some role. And I don't know what his role was, official title, but he comes out to us and he says to me, listen, we've contacted the local police department. And apparently they had suspicion that you were engaging in potential illegal activity on the beach. And I was like, okay, yeah, but why did they steal my knife? And okay, if any of that's true, which is nonsense, like, okay, where do they have? What do they have? Where is it? Well, what they just stole all my shit. They took my water, they took my knife, they took my money for my thing. And he's like, well, I'll tell you right now, you can go, I can send you back to the police station. You can file an official report and start an investigation, which is going to take a minute. You're going to have to hang out here in Tijuana. Or you can just suck it up as, local cops said hello. And, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, so what you're saying is whatever happened to me, that's going to happen a lot. That happens a lot down here. This is like, SOP, standard operating procedure. Let's go molest a few tourists, get a knife, get some water, pick up some cash, do what we got to do, and there's really nothing you can do about it. He's like, well, you can do something about it, but like I said, it's all bullshit. It was all bullshit. And I was like, well, gonna get the hell out of Tijuana. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go get the hell out of Tijuana. Tijuana sucks. It's absurd. The whole time I was there, it was quite stunning. I was on the beach at one point. We were trying to interact with other people, but no one would have it. The only people staying there were either rich people or other people that were working there. I mean, it was just crazy. So like, this wasn't a place I was interested in being. And having the cops take all my shit, that was an interesting encounter. But anyways, so I figured, you know what? I'm going to get the hell out of Mexico, and we're on our way to Guatemala. Yeah. So I got a map. I don't know if I told you, but I had this weird, funky, oversized map. It wasn't a detailed map, but it was a big map of like, okay, Mexico, Guatemala, you know what I mean? Like, we can just keep going. And the basic highways and destinations, you know what I mean, you can go. So I had a general idea which way I need to go to get to Guatemala. What I didn't realize was the perils of which it takes to go from TJ to Guatemala. And here's one of the proofs I have that I made this trip. But when you go down there and you try to drive from Tijuana to Guatemala, you're experiencing something that I don't think exists anywhere else in the world. Maybe. I've heard of it existing, maybe Chile, Peru, these kinds of things. They have this highway. You have to go through the mountains. The massive flipping mountain I don't even know how high it was. The elevation was ridiculous. To the point where you can't see shit. Like, I don't mean you can see shit, a little shit. You cannot see a thing. You literally have to have somebody in front of your vehicle shining a light back into your car, and you follow that light as they back their ass up the road. Now, check this out. There's also one lane. There's one lane and a little pull-off and a cliff on the other side of there is a cliff that drops off. So if you mess this up, there's a cliff. I don't even know. There are buses that are just whizzing their ass. They just come down that. They don't expect a car from Massachusetts to be coming up their mountain. You know what I mean? Because whatever the hell they got going, they're just coming down. Listen, there's no places to stop. there are no rest stops. There's nobody to help you. There's no cell phones. There's nothing. There's literally nothing. Now, luckily, it wasn't the longest thing. It only took us. It took us to go like 10 miles. Took us like 2 days. I don't know what it was. I don't remember exactly what it was, but let's just say it was one of the most terrifying things. I mean, the Acapulco police thing did not compare to going up this mountain and then finding my way onto the border of Guatemala. It was quite honestly, even to this day, one of the scariest things I've ever had to experience. And if you ever get a chance to go there, I mean, not saying that you would, but let me just tell you, and I've heard that it's not much better. Like they, outside of you having cell phone maybe or satellite, I mean, I don't know, it's just not that much better. But finally, we made it, man. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I thought we were just going to get run over by one of these flipping trucks hauling ass around this thing, or people coming up and down, just so there were people walking. I mean, it was crazy. But anyway, so I make it to the Guatemala border, and how much time do I got? Do I got time? Guatemala is great. Yeah, I got time. All right. I got see. It gets better. It just gets better, dude. Yeah. You guys have no idea, man. You gotta. I really hope you follow this. It's really an interesting journey, man. I'm so happy I get to share it with you. Because later we get back to the Scientology. I was the first resident of Covenant House in LA. I mean, of course I was at Fort Ord and Seventh ID and all of it. I mean, it's amazing. I'm still here. But anyways, I'm at the border of Guatemala, and I pull up to the border of Guatemala, and it's a border of Mexico with Guatemala. And the first thing you do is Mexico doesn't care if you're leaving, but Guatemala cares if you're coming in. That's kind of thing. So you go over the Mexican border, no one gives a shit, but as soon as you get into Guatemala, the first thing they do is they spray your wheels. So one of the things, if years and years ago, that Mexico City had a problem with, there's a lot of those areas, and I don't know if it was there was a lack of plumbing, and everything was gravity. And as you were literally driving through Mexico City, you would see the areas that had less plumbing, let's just say, and you would see refuse running down. And so you literally go over to Guatemala. The very first thing they did, they took out these spraying things, and they were literally spraying the bottom of my car. Then I had to pull over because I have a Massachusetts license plate on me, and there's a guy there who's explaining to me in some terrible English, which it's not understandable, that the only people that come from Massachusetts to Guatemala are doing something with drugs or now. Here's another thing. They give you this card, by the way. When you drive over back then, they give you this card, and there's a stamp on the card in what type of transportation you use to get in the country. You got to use the same transportation to get the hell out of the country. You see what I'm saying? So what's interesting, because now I'm trying to figure out how the hell do I sell this car for horses, because if I come in a car and leave in a horses, it's gonna raise a few red flags for somebody somewhere. But it's a card. It was the strangest thing. Like, they literally punch a card. And if you come in an airplane, boop, punch the airplane, boop, punch it was just a flipping card. What happens if I just throw the card out the window? Anyways, who knows? Luckily, I had the card on me the whole time. But, so I go in, they punch my card, and they pull me over into this waiting area. Now, this is all federal. This is all military or border, whatever the hell their border is. So I'm in Guatemala, okay? I don't know anything about the Civil War. I don't know anything about U.S. laws at the time that restricted access to, because they were in the middle of a civil war. And I mean, a ridiculous civil war. Guatemala is having a lot of issues back then. And so at that time, apparently, either the State Department was preventing Americans from going across the border, or they were recommending you don't go across the border. But I hadn't gotten the notice. I wasn't aware that these were things, because who tells David anything? You know what I'm saying? First of all, I don't have a fax machine. I don't have a cell phone. There are no cell phones, just so you know. There are some personal computers that are making their way onto the market at this time, but There's no way. There's no real internet. There's no way to connect. There's no way for me to have known this was even a thing. How am I supposed to know? I'm not. It's not like every couple of days I'm calling the State Department and go, hey, where can I go this week? I guess you're supposed to, by the way. But anyways, and they're supposed to warn you, like, oh, it's safe to travel here. It's not safe to travel there. But again, I had no clue, dude. I just literally got in my car and headed south. So here I am on the border in Guatemala, and they have me sitting on this curb. In fact, one guy is really nice, man. Brings me a chair, sits me down. I think at some point they gave me something to drink. My basket case, Chris, friend of his, my other friend, is literally just rolled. He's in the fetal position behind my chair. I think at this point he was just full on sucking his thumb from this moment on. I mean, there was not much left to him. He was it just literally had degenerated to some other state in time. But, so I'm sitting there in the chair, and I don't know whether it was literally sarcasm or what the hell happened. And the next thing you know, they bring over this thing that raises my car, and they take all the tires off, because that's what you do. You take all the tires off. And I was like, wait a minute, what is going on? Well, no, we got to inspect your car. We got to make sure that you're clean, and you're not bringing in drugs, or you're not doing it. But anyway, so for the next 4 or 5 hours, they're taking apart my car. They took the seats out of my car. They took the steering wheel off my car. They took the lining off of the roof. They took all the wheels off, as I mentioned. They even took the rubber. They literally at one point, they were looking in whatever the rims. I mean, they took apart this car like you would not believe they took apart a car. Now, here's the most interesting thing about this. So they take apart my car, and it's just there on the street. It's literally sitting in pieces. I have no wheels. I have no steering wheel. They even took out this plastic inset in the glove compartment box. There was one point where they were trying to remove the radio, and they were trying to see into the dash. I mean, my car was, but very nicely they had laid out this whole, like a tarp. There was a tarp that was laid out on the street, and all the pieces they had brought to the tarp. Very nice of them with the screws. So here's my car, completely disassembled. And the guy tells me, you're free to go. So I'm sitting on this chair, by the way, drinking on some water. And the guy literally comes over to me, and he points back at my car. No tires. Oh, they've already put, they had this sort of, these jacks. And so the thing that came to lift up the car is no longer there. It's gone. You know what I mean? The car's up. And he's like, you're free to go. And I'm looking at this like, free to go where, dude? Like, how am I going to put this car together? Because it's not even possible. I mean, it said the car is laid out. I mean, you've taken everything from me. You have reduced my car to pieces. And if you don't already know this about me, I am the least mechanically inclined person you will ever met. In fact, there was a little known truth about when I first bought the Isuzu Trooper, the salesperson that showed the car to me, he's like, listen, this car is foolproof. On every dial, every one of the hoses and things like this, there's a picture of what you put in there. You follow? There's just a picture. And I experienced some noise as I'm driving around, and I go out of my car and lift up the hood, and I'm at this day, and I see there's a picture, and it looks like a drop of water coming out of this genie's bottle. And I'm like, that's where the water goes. The water must go there. And sure enough, I tried putting water in it, and the guy's like, you're an idiot. That's oil, you idiot. There's oil that goes in there. And I'm like, why isn't the water going down? I keep pouring the water, and it's not, because I thought it would be like some. Anyways, I am the least mechanically inclined. So I'm looking at this thing now. So I get up from the chair. I'm looking around. I'm trying to figure out. I'm in Guatemala. Okay, I don't know anything about the war. It's actually this really big open border thing. So up till now I was used to lots of smaller installations, stuff like this when they were federal. But this big border, there's this truck there's a couple trucks that are just sort of lined up. And I'm sort of looking around. I'm thinking, well, maybe I get a ride on a truck. I'm just gonna leave this fucking car here. Not much I can do with it. At this point, I'm just done. And then maybe Chris stays with the car. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like I don't look. It doesn't look like he's about to go anywhere, anyways. And this young kid, he's not really a young kid. He's my age. He's maybe a year younger than me. He walks up to me and he asks me what's going on. And I explained to him that and he speaks perfect English, like perfect English. I explained to him that, I used to have a car, and it's over there. There's my car. You help yourself. If you need a car or pieces of a car, there's a piece of a car. And he starts talking to me, and I find out that his dad owns a trucking company in Texas. And that's how he learned English, and he goes to high school in Texas a couple months of the year, and then he comes down this whole thing. Anyways, so his family owns a chain of so you know how we have a local, is it Polo Loco? Polo Loco? Mm-hmm. They own a chicken chain called El Loco Polo, the exact opposite. And I'm like, really? I can use a little chicken right now. So he's explaining to me that he's got some connections, and he's gonna have his dad talk to the Border Patrol and see about how they could get this squared away. And I can't believe for a minute that there's any, what's the square away, dude? There's nothing left. You know what I mean? I just leave it on. The kid comes back, and with him are these two guys, and who look very important for Border Patrol or whatever the hell they're doing down there. And the next thing you know, there's an army of these dudes on my car, putting it back together. They got that car. They got the seats, because they had pulled out all the seats, because you got to pull out the seats and the cushions, everything else. They put my car back together in less than 30 minutes. It's almost like they had done this before. And after that, I fully realized, like, I wonder how many people they had reduced to, like, parts. The person gets on one of these trucks, heads out, and the next thing you know, they put together a brand new car for themselves, and they're off and running. But anyway, so they put my car together. That was fantastic. I mean, I couldn't believe it. This young kid and his dad, they just waved a fucking finger. Next thing you know, there's this whole army of people putting together my car. All right. Needless to say, we get back in the car, we get introduced to all these truck drivers. So there's this whole group of trucks lining up. They're all lining up, and no one has actually gone over the border, for a period of time. So they bring us into this little room, and they show us a map. And so what it is because they were in the middle of a civil war, there was basically the government versus whoever was the rebels, I guess, if you want to call them that. And so what they had done is the rebels had been setting up fake federale stations, forcing you to stop, and they would kill you and take all your shit. And the reason why their people were lining up at the border is because they would go out in convoys together. It was the only way to go from the border into Guatemala City. So you would start at the convoy, they would back it up, and once you had enough vehicles together, they would run the gauntlet, so to speak. I can't make this shit up. You follow? Like, they would literally, that was the conversation that they had right there, and on this map, they showed you where the official federale stations were and where the fake ones were, basically. Because there was one other way station we had to stop at before we got to Guatemala City, which isn't all that far from where we were. Anyways, I mean, I don't remember how long. It was probably a few hours I was in this convoy. And they're like, they're giving you tips on, okay, you have to go at a consistent speed. They make sure that your vehicle is, fully gassed and it's very functional, because if you break down, there's no breaking down, brother. Like, you're either going to make it to Guatemala City, or you know what I mean? You may be somebody's bride to be, before the week is up. So so the trucks go first, and then there's about 6 cars, and we're about second from the back, okay? And we get in this convoy, and we set out with this convoy, and the plan is this kid and his family, they're going to take us into one of their compounds. They have a compound in Guatemala City. They're going to take us there, introduce us to at this, what would arguably be at this point our first fast food destination. Not Polo Locos, El Locos Polo, the exact opposite. And so, we set out. By the way, if that family is out there, man, I hope to God you hear this and reach out to me. You can't imagine. Because anyways, I'll get to that in a minute. But they had given me all their information, and I had left the son who had helped us this leather jacket that, strangely enough, the dudes didn't take, and it was this really, really nice goatskin jacket I had that was gifted to me by my adoptive dad, and was not cheap, mind you. It was one of the last real luxury items I had. And but it was a really beautiful jacket. He didn't want it. He didn't want to take it. He wanted to do everything because they were just that way. And but I really wanted him to have something to remember. And he had given me all this information to follow up, and we had become friends. And it was just this whole wonderful thing. And I lost all of it. So when I ended up homeless later, it was one of those things that I lost. And anyways. So here I am in this convoy, and we're going around, and you can see the trucks moving around. We get to this, so we're in the canopy, and the canopy is the other most amazing thing I had never experienced before in my life. We're literally driving through a tunnel of trees, like not a tunnel of steel and concrete or whatever hell it is, but of a jungle where the road has been cut out into the jungle, and above us and beside us, left and right and above us, is just nothing but the jungle. It's nothing but trees and darkness. You can't see the sky. We're literally driving through a jungle of trees. And it's the most beautiful and the most, the scariest, and it's absolutely amazing that I'm seeing this. But I'm scared shitless. But I have that very excited, nervous anxiety, and Chris is in the fetal position sucking his thumb. In fact, at this point, I asked him to go in the back because he wouldn't stop crying. And I'm like, dude, we're on our way. And he's like, I don't want to be on our way. And the further we got from the United States, it would just I don't know what am I supposed to do? Like, I can't put him on a plane. There's no plane service. We haven't even gotten to a city Mexico City maybe. But anyways, I have him go in the back seat, and he's at this point at this time, by the way, he has just completely lost it. So we're going through the canopy, and there's areas of the canopy. I call it the canopy, like the tunnel, the jungle tunnel. We're driving, and there's this one point where the truck in front of me, or the truck in front of us, turns, and there's this one corner, and I remember it. I've had dreams about it. I remember it to this day. This whole area of trees is at this one corner. So we're going around this corner, and this one area is just lit up. I mean, it's just absolutely lit up. There's floodlights and things like this. And I see a kid, and I mean kid. I don't even think he was 8 years old. This very small person, how about that, holding a weapon over their head, surrounded by other people, bigger people, holding the weapon. But the thing that was so fascinating was how young this person was, 8, 7. I don't know. It's this really young person with this, what looked later, what I've come to know or think it was like an M16 kind of thing, or an AK-47, this kind of thing, right? Holding it over his head. And I was told very specifically, if the lead truck doesn't slow down, you just kick it, dude. And we were supposed to have stopped there. That was the way station we were supposed to have used. And apparently no mas. And so we just kept going. And the next thing you hear is, I hear them shooting. I hear them shooting at us. And it's just really loud firecrackers just popping off. And it hits the back of my car gets hit. And I look back, and of course, there's Chris. He's a bad. I'm a basket. He's a bad. But I'm not one of these people that gets all like afterwards. I'm just in shock. I got to pull over and I got to go through. You know what I mean? Hyperventilating. But at the moment, I mean, I just don't have time to react that way. You know what I mean? But you know, I mean, poor Chris though, and I keep looking back to see if he's bleeding out or something. I mean, he's just crying and he's yelling how he wants to go home, and you know, here we're getting shot at and there's bullet holes, and you can't blame the guy. You know what I mean? He didn't set out to be shot at in Guatemala in the middle of the Civil War. You know what I'm saying? You can't blame the guy. You know, just because he's a big what? No, I can't. You know what I mean? He was a wonderful human being, by the way. And you know, I was talking. Me and Dennis were talking the other day about how, I will say this: as scared as he was, and all of everything that came with it, the memories are you know, now today are just fantastic, absolutely fantastic. But so here he is, basket case. We're driving. We exit the canopy. And there's a point where I remember we drive into the city. It opens up. We drive into the city. I'm just the trucks veer off, and all I'm doing now is following a car that's in front of me that I'm supposed to follow. We drive to this neighborhood. It's still a little bit dark, so morning is coming upon us. It's probably like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, early morning. Morning's coming upon us, and we're parked. There's 3 or 4 cars all together. We're parked outside of these gates, and someone runs out to go and get a key to the padlock on this gate, and then realizes they can't get in. They can't get through these gates. These gates, and someone leaves. Where it tells us to wait there. Someone leaves, drives away to get, what's the key? I'm with the kid. The dad's with me, or with us, and we're all standing outside these gates. And we see, so it's like 4, it's coming upon 5, lights coming up on the horizon, and you can see this group of people that's backlit, that's coming up about, I would say, maybe like a mile away. I mean, it's pretty flat, but it's on like a hill crest, and you can see people coming towards us. And so all I've heard was up to now is that there's this war and there's rebels, and so of course I asked the kid, and I say to him, are these the good guys or the bad guys? I mean, is this neighborhood good or bad? And he's like, well, this neighborhood has been under people have come in and have struck out, have attacked the neighborhood before because they're affluent and the compounds and everything else. He's like, usually they're well defended. Which I didn't understand. What do you mean your house is well defended? Who is that a well defended house? Like, how is this living? And he's like, well, the only thing he says, like, if we get closer and we see that they're young people with guns, then we know we got an issue because they may not be the rebels, but there's a lot of gangs that go around now creating taking advantage of the chaos and everything else. And so it's like, great. So we're hoping that it's a geriatric crew out for a leisurely stroll in the middle of the morning. But at any point, if they're younger and they have guns, which, you know what I mean, because that's what's going on here, that's going to be the issue. So we're staying there, and wouldn't you know it, I mean, you can see now that they're younger. You can't see if they have guns necessarily, but they're definitely younger. And the dad's like, well, it might be fine. It might be fine. We'll see. Sure enough, thank God. Little Pablo comes back. I don't know what his name is. He comes back. He unlocks the gate, and we go. And I'm standing there because I want to see so bad if they have guns, dude. Because I want to see, like, what the hell? How do they? If I'm literally standing at the gate, trying to see as they're coming in, trying to see their silhouettes, see if they have weapons on them. I really can't make out. And then I get pulled in, and the gates are open, and all the cars. We go back into our cars. And then we drive them in quickly. Someone turns the gates. And this compound is set, so the house is set back from where the compound gates are. And there's like 20 cars in this part. It's a pretty big kind of area. It's amazing because so I grew up in some fairly nice houses, except for when I was like homeless or running away or whatever. But this house was just a brick house. But it was a pretty sprawling, brick house. So it wasn't like as refined as you might find like in the United States, but it definitely had some scale. There were a lot of people who were living in this, and the most interesting thing about it was how well defended it was. And when I say well defended, check this out. So we go in, and right away, it's the mom and everybody. They're so excited to see us. They introduce us, of course, and we haven't slept in a while, and we're literally exhausted. And so we sit down, we have something to eat, and we're taken upstairs. And upstairs is literally like 4 stories high, right? So it's like this 4-story thing. We're taken upstairs, and we're actually we're originally sent into this one room, and then we ended up in this alcove of the roof, like literally alcove of the roof, and it's I don't even know how to explain it. There's a shower head in this little alcove thing, and then next to it is a few cots, and then there's this little door. It's like a little cabin on top. It's like a little cabin or like a little outhouse type of thing on the very top of this compound home, and of course we go outside, and there's a dude there with the machine gun and sandbags around his ass on the top of this flipping building. He's got, rifle, machine gun, sandbags, and this is his shower, and this is his cot. And now it's apparently our cot and our shower, and it's just the weirdest thing. We're sleeping up with this guy, doesn't speak any English, by the way, who's manning a machine gun, a machine gun. Like, I mean a 50 cal. I know what a 50 cal is now. You know what I mean? It's a 50 caliber machine gun. And he's got a couple rifles, and he's literally on the top of this compound house, just looking down, defending the house. And he's doing his job. And then we're here. And by the way, Chris is quite literally like, so there's no curtain on the shower, which is weird. And it's sort of open. There's no really door, like on this outhouse thing. There's no really door on it. It's just an entryway with some beads. It was just the weirdest thing. So we thought that. So I was like, well, we gotta take a shower, dude. We haven't showered in a really long time. We need to shower. And they didn't. It wasn't a shower like we know showers, by the way. So you don't wait for the hot water to heat up. They had this little heater thing at the end of the shower at the end of the faucet, and you would turn it on, and it would try to heat the water as it came out. Which, just let me tell you, it doesn't do a very good job. And the water doesn't come out like a lot of pressure. It's more like, it's a little more than someone spitting on you, but I can imagine someone with a lot of saliva, it being maybe warmer, and I don't know. So we managed to get under the spigot, and that was my first time showering with another man. Because there weren't a lot of other options there. That the water, it was all gravity making this thing work, and once the water was out, and so you had to do what you had to do. And then the whole time, I have this dude with his machine gun and his rifles and everything else, just like hanging out in the background, watching 2 dudes take a shower while the war is breaking out downstairs. You know what I mean? Can you imagine? This is, and just at the time, trying to understand all of it, it just wasn't a thing. I literally didn't give a shit. I was like, I was in it, and I don't know why. I was sort of loving it. I was having a great experience. I wasn't expecting to make it out alive, and I was trying to max out every single day, every single detail, every single moment. I wanted to see it. I wanted to breathe it. I wanted to hear it. I wanted to live it. Everything. I wanted to hear it. There was a moment where I laid my ass against a wall, and I was listening to the sounds of everything that's going around, because I was in a war zone. You know what I mean? Well, let me hear the war. What's going on? Where are the screams? Or where are the, where's the guns going off? What's going on in this thing? And you could hear it. You could hear it. You can hear a country in pain. And this was a country in pain. If you guys read back and look up the Guatemala Civil War and the things that Guatemala was experiencing at the time, I was literally in Guatemala City during this, and I will tell you that it was it was just so I don't even know how to explain it. It woke me up. It woke me up in a way that I would never have experienced if I had just stayed where I was, and it made me both very sad. It made me I don't know, afraid, and you know, because I came from an area of the world, or I came from Mexico, where everyone was so helpful, except for the corrupt police, and you know, and then here I go into this, where these people are just so, you know, polarized and set against each other, and all trying to, you know, work out a different recourse, but because I didn't understand the politics of it, I had no idea what to this day I really haven't gone all that into it. I mean, I'm not from there, you know what I mean? I wouldn't know what to say, except that I knew this family had wealth, and I knew that they, you know, they took great pains to defend themselves. I mean, for the love, you know what I mean? But they also were also very kind, and they were also very good to me and very supportive, and I can't thank them enough for the charity and the care that they provided me. Before I went back to, so I stayed. Guatemala City was the end of me going south. There was nowhere else to go, and I had a terrific few weeks experiencing sort of life and living through the you know, there were places you could go during the day that were fine. That, you know, we were sort of in and out, and we would go quickly. We would always use transportation that wasn't my car, of course, not to draw attention. At this point, I had sort of, you know, grown out this weird beard, and I was tanned, and I would wear you know, a big old hat. So I can't say I fit in, but I looked less touristy. You know what I mean? So I didn't stand out so much. But I got to interact with, you know, people, business owners, and there was this restaurant owner that we went to, because this family had quite the means. They were very well off, and we went to this private restaurant, like that was up in this hill, and I got to experience what I'm assuming is rare for people who live down there, or, you know, who are part of that experience, and I mean, it was terrific. It was just terrific. Of course, Chris didn't agree. Chris got to know the machine gun guy, and they got to become sort of friends, I think. And Chris didn't want to leave the roof all that much, to be honest with you. I'm not sure how that evolved, but anyways, it was quite interesting. The next part, which you know, we'll do next week, or we may even move on to. We'll see. If you guys are still in it, you want me to finish the story, I'm happy to do so. It goes on. So I turn back. I come up with a new plan. This family convinced me to turn back. For the first time in my life, I had a few thinking, moderate adults in the room who were communicating much more sense, let's just say. Not to mention, Chris was, you know, I wanted to ship him back. I was hoping to send him back with the trucker, you know, the dad, you know, put him in the truck and just haul his ass back to Texas and put him on a bus. But they convinced me that I had a life to live. This was not for me, first of all. And they also explained how it was nearly impossible to, going from Panama specifically, to go around and into Colombia or even around into Brazil was possible, but very, very difficult, especially for someone who didn't speak Spanish, who couldn't communicate well, someone as young as myself. And there was a lot of risk, you know, in undertaking that kind of trip. So, yeah, so eventually they backed me off. The next thing I knew, I was on my way back to Mexico. So and listen, it doesn't end, because ultimately it was not easy getting back. There was a point where I ran out of money, and I'm going to start that story running out of money. And remember, I had to drive my ass out of Guatemala back to where I started in the border, and then up that weird-ass mountain, terrifying mountain, with trying to avoid TJ, and then perhaps back to Mexico City, where at this point they might have a warrant out for my arrest. Those whistles might have evolved, and they might still be looking. I don't know what they would do. Can you imagine? They've got some guy with this like on the lookout for some white kid. They've got a big old picture, and I don't know. So I wasn't looking forward to going back, but I had no other way. I mean, I had to leave the same way I came in, and that was the goal. But the kid, he went with us. So they traveled with us back to the border. Can you imagine that, by the way, being under such duress and risk, like, going both ways with me and risking your life just to send someone who you'd never met before. You literally just met them a week earlier, 2 weeks earlier at the border, and you're escorting them back because out of some sense of obligation for what? Like, I have no idea. You know what I mean? And here I was. So I will stop there. So I'm literally at the border, returning to Mexico, running into the same asshole security border patrol guy that had started taking my car out. But at this point, it's very friendly, really, really nice because I got juiced over the border. And then I was heading back. By the way, so I do know that the kid had told me that his family or his uncle had many, many years earlier had been either a president or premier of Guatemala, and was an important political figure, which is one of the reasons why they put my car together so quickly. And this is why his family had money and wealth, and they had this franchise. But okay, so the next part is I'm going to be at the border of Acapulco, and can I say this? If I get like 100 likes, we'll keep going. What do you think?
Sure.
Is that a thing? If I get 100 likes, 100, that's it.
Before next week.
Before next week, 100 likes, I'll keep going. If you guys are still here, otherwise, we've been thinking about moving it onto kind of a different platform. Some of these experiences, the unfiltered versions, are on Patreon, just so you know. So I've been sharing a lot of that. And then I may even move to like the TED Talk thing, because I know people have been interested in talking to me more about kind of the evolution of our business and the opportunity, innovation, all that stuff. So there's that. Okay, that's the journey. I'm so glad you shared it with me. Thank you guys so much for being part of this experience. Don't forget our new strategy guide. So we're very proud of that. Dennis and his team, Jet and Leslie, put that all together. We have some really exciting stuff for you guys coming out. I'm working on the event, so the end of the week, I should have some news on the room. If not, we're just going to go forward. It's going to be the end of March 30th and 31st.
Yeah, someone asked for the Valentine's event. We changed it because we realized Super Bowl was around the corner. And
yeah, so it's never going to happen. Like, no one was going to that event at Super Bowl. Like, we got zero. It's not a thing. So, but March 30th, 31st is going to be our fan event. It's going to be I'm trying to get you guys discounts on the rooms so that you can book the room with no resort fee, stuff like this. And so far I've got rates, but I don't have the whole discount code that you need to apply as part of Casino Quest. So we're working through all that. Either way, by the end of the week, I've committed to putting up Friday or Saturday, putting up the event, and we're just going to have a fire. So this event's going to go off at $50. It's going to be a very fan event. We're going to have one of the meetups will be either at CQ or at Palace Station. And we are going to take over one of their restaurants there. Pretty fantastic restaurant, by the way, that they have there that we ate just the other day. Had a really good time. So we're going to take over that whole space. We got a whole suite there that we're gonna have. We're gonna have a small Patreon event as well that we'll share some of that experience. But for the rest of you and all the fans, we're going to be on the floor. We're going to gamble our ass off. We're going to have a lot of fun, and we'll be there the whole day. Play some Keno, craps, roulette, whatever you got.
Now,
so we're hoping.
I do have to read this before we leave because it is a super chat.
Yeah.
Derek gives $4.99.
Thank you, sir.
Said, "What's the restaurant called? Jasmine?
What's the what?
Well, what's the restaurant called?
That's
Jasmine?
dude. That's at Bellagio. By the way, they have an all-you-can-eat seafood now at Jasmine. They have all-you-can-eat seafood buffet, dude. We got to go. Derek still owes me the buffet. I probably owe Derek at this point with all the super chats, but there's that. All right. Thank you guys. Thank you guys so much for being on this journey. It's never lost. It is never lost on me. So, all right. Bye, guys. We good?
Yep.
See you next time. Bye.
Say the line.
And off to Keno to unwind.
And the truth is.